Welcome to the Gold Standard here, of course, on the 440 Sports Network and partnered with Lower Broad Hockey. My name is Braden Gall, and you can catch me in the streets in real life, IRL. That's right.
And I'm Emma Lingan, and I'm not going to say catch me in the streets because it sounds like, I don't know, that sounds bad.
But sounds bad.
Like you're challenging people to a fight or something.
No, what I'm
hockey
saying...
Hockey fights everyone.
No, I would like to meet more folks in real life is sort of what I'm trying to get at here. In fact, we were walking around on Christmas break with the kids at a little like holiday 5 Points something or other right here over the holiday. It was very cold out, and a couple walked up and they were like, "Love the Gold Standard. Let's talk Preds." And then we talked Preds for a few minutes over a fire and a nice glass of bourbon that I probably should have purchased from Sinkers Beverages instead of whatever festival this was. But I want to meet people in real life, IRL, in the arena, in the streets. That's all I meant by that. Or you could follow me on Blue Sky.
Yeah, I just generally don't like people, so
happy birthday.
Thank you.
just in general, hate people. If you want to jump into the comment section, please do so. Nate and Eddie, good to see you folks. And there you go, Kevin, as well. Good to see you. And shout out to my guy Josh, who I believe I saw walking his daughter to school, and I can't believe how big she's gotten. That's all I want to say. So hello to everybody. If you want to jump into the comments, thumbs up. And here's the thing. It's going to be a loose episode because the Predators are playing a loose brand of hockey. It is. I want to know, Emma, the number one question I have for everybody today is like, is this what we should expect and be ready for over the course of the next 30 plus games or so? And I think there's a good chance this is what we're going to get. Because we saw the crazy comeback against Chicago on Tuesday night with angry Philip Forsberg. I had a chance to be there at that game. And then we saw the domination of Minnesota with, of course, the whole entire first period getting even with Zach LaRue, which we expected to be with the former coach and lots of former players. Then you got Cunnin and Granlund scoring goals at Bridgestone Arena for San Jose and making history. So lots of stuff to get to. Justin Barron, fancy stats that are not so fancy. Juuse Saros, once again, a question of what's going on. So lots of stuff to get to today on the pod. Brought to you, of course, by Sinkers Beverages and Shotgun Willie's Barbecue. Emma, I know you're a fan of all sports, and there is a giant football game coming up in which people like to gather and like to imbibe. I think is the word imbibe, EMBIB. I think is the word. Did you know that's how you spell that?
I did not know because I don't think it is, but
okay.
I'm picking up.
Hang on.
Let's pick it up. IMBIBE. What you just spelled was mbib, and I don't know.
Okay, you're correct. I misspelled the first letter, but I did get the I did get the rest of it correct. Drink booze is, I believe, the phrase I'm getting to. Yes, thank you, Kevin, for pointing that out. Jeffrey, good to see you as well. Here's the deal: people like to eat and drink during a championship football game that takes place on a Sunday. And so there's one really easy way to make that day super successful and easy for you and all of your friends and or family. Sinkers Beverages for those beverages. Super, super easy. And then make sure you swing by Shotgun Willie's Barbecue. He has food ready and prepared. He will prepare for you for your party. All kinds of ribs, all kinds of smoked wings, the things that we want at football games. I want ribs and I want wings. Those are the two things I eat when I watch a football game or any other sporting event for that matter. And I want ribs and I want wings. What is your number one food of choice at a super party?
Well, apparently Minka has some thoughts.
She likes chicken, apparently, as do all dogs.
She does, but it doesn't like her. But I won't get into her digestive issues.
Please don't.
Yeah, I like I'm a big like dips person, so like chips, dips, buffalo chicken dip, things like that.
Buffalo chicken dip. Okay. All right. You are from the South. All right.
It's not, but
I know you're not, but you've been here a long. You've been down to the south of the Mason-Dixon line for a long time.
I don't know. I'm more of like a snacker. I like to pick at a bunch of little things,
which is why I love chicken wings, because it feels like it can be a whole meal.
You can just
eat a couple of them.
we're not going to ignite the whole wing thing again, are we?
That was not my goal, because that's not really a debate or a discussion. It's just for those who are terrorists and communists and those who like wings with how they come on the bird with a bone in them.
Brought this to the discussion. I'm not quite sure what that implies, but maybe she likes frog.
We'll get to frog legs are amazing. That's completely true. I don't think Shotgun Willie makes those, but frog legs are delicious. If that's her representation of Justin Barron's defensive fancy stats, I could get on board with it.
I think this is overselling Justin Barron's defensive stats, but
yikes. All right. So what I wasn't trying to ignite the wings versus boneless discussion. I feel like that's settled science at this point. I am trying to get to your point about, like, I like to snack. I like to have a buffet, right? I like to have things available, and ribs and wings are one of those things where you don't feel bad if you eat like 2 or 3. It feels like a little bit more sustenance than just snacking, but you can kind of keep going back to it, and it feels like you're getting a full meal, even though you're kind of snacking the whole time. That's why I like wings and ribs. So Shotgun Willie's Barbecue. And for all your beers and your beverages and your fancy cocktails and your halftime party watching, viewing pleasure, wines, champagnes, make sure you check out Sinker's Beverages as well. All right, is this what Predators fans are in for the rest of the way? Like, I watched that. I was there behind the bench for the Chicago game. Talked a little bit about it with Adam on Monday, or I guess it was Tuesday, because I was super sick. Forsberg was angry when he scored that goal. Like, he came back to the bench, his face was pissed off. And I think it's because they were frustrated with how they had played that day, but they still got the 2 points. They had won earlier. They're 10-6-1 since the 8-game losing streak. The fancy stats are off the charts. If you want more of those, check out the other episode with Adam and myself on Lower Broad Hockey. But then you come back and you play this incredible game with so much emotion in a very specific spot against a former coach and a team that wants to decapitate your rookie forward. And then you come back and make history against the worst team basically in the league, where you come back from a 4-goal deficit for the first time in franchise history, and frog. And so, like, I guess my question is there's a huge debate, Emma, about where they're going to pick in the draft, which right now would still be top 5. Okay. Despite the fact that they've played really well for over a month. They have one of the best offenses in the NHL for the better part of 5 or 6 weeks now. If they're still picking 7th or 8th, isn't this the fun way to go? Isn't this the kind of hockey you want to see, that you're entertained, but also, you know what? They're not good enough to put away Chicago and San Jose until the very end.
Well, I would just like to point out, I said this on It's All Your Fault with Gover earlier this week, that I don't know, looking at the Predators schedule, like the strength of schedule remaining and how they, basically had the best or the easiest schedule remaining. And I was like, why does that make me feel worse? I feel like just with the way that this season has gone, I'm like, I don't like that. But I think that if this season so far has taught us anything, it's that we shouldn't have any expectations of this team, because they're probably just going to prove them wrong, what negative or positive. Like, it's just been that kind of year. But to your question, yes, I think this is the fun way to go. I mean, of course, they handily beat Minnesota, one of the best teams in the Central Division, because they were so pissed off at Zach LaRue that they forgot there was a game going on. But then, of course, San Jose comes in and steamrolls them 5-1 in the first and early into the second period. And then Nashville comes back and beats them 7-5. Like, this is just how this season is going. It's just not like I said, you just got to kind of enjoy the ride, whatever the hell this ride is. Just sit back and just ride it.
Eddie says this team is bipolar. Just sit back and ride it. There you go. Look,
I was going to say sit back and enjoy the ride, but it may not be enjoyable. Like, it may give you ulcers at certain points. Well, but I sit back and accept it.
I agree. I also think that, like, it's not that I don't understand where a fan is coming from. If the fan is saying, I'm tired of the middle, I'm tired of mediocrity, I'm tired of just missing the playoffs or just making the playoffs, nothing's going to change. This is a cycle of death, and we're going to end up pinwheeling ourselves back and forth and around until we do the exact same thing over and over again. And that, what is it? Is it Jason Higgins? I got his name wrong on Monday too. Jeremy Higgins. I don't know his name. James. Third tries the charm. I don't cover prospects. All I know is that this guy's apparently the real deal and is the top forward and the top offensive weapon in the draft. And you could probably get him, maybe not number 1. Maybe you can get him at number 2. And so if you've got enough draft capital to go from 4 to 2, or bad enough to pick 2, that he could be I'm watching Macklin Celebrini clearly be a defining player for the Sharks moving forward. And you only get that guy at the top. And so I understand the folks who have been saying that all along. But at the same time, there's also thousands and thousands and thousands of you who pay good money to go to a lot of games, or a few games, or no games, or maybe you're spending a lot of money on Bally's, or I guess it's FanDuel now. And to watch this team, don't you want something in return for your investment, at least in the short term? And if that means you're picking 7th or 8th, which again, they're still picking 4th right now. They're not picking 13th. They have to win almost all the games to get to 13th. I think that you could see them having entertaining hockey games that give us some sense of somebody who's invested in this financially and from a time standpoint, some fun. That was a fun second and third period. It was tense. It wasn't necessarily the way you wanted it to go against a bad team. And if you give up, if Juuse Saros continues to get pulled, it's not going to be a good season. But at the end of the day, that was total entertainment. The Minnesota game was complete and utter entertainment. It was a boxing match plus a blowout of a rival with a former coach and former players. Forsberg's on a 6-goal scoring streak now. He got the empty netter on Tuesday night. Martha Show with 4 points. It's a fun thing to watch right now. Are you okay with that for the next 30 games if it means you're picking 8th instead of picking 4th? I think I'm okay with that. I said the same thing about the Titans up until the last game. I'm like, play football, win as many times as you can until you're in the last spot and you have on the last moment you have a chance to get the number 1 pick. Then maybe you start Mason Rudolph and Will Levis.
Yeah, I think that again, to your original question, I'm okay with it. I think this first half of the season has not been enjoyable. It has not been entertaining. And if you can get that now, it's like the best of both worlds. You actually get to watch entertaining hockey, which would like to harken back to something Barry Trotz said when he first took over as general manager, which is that he said something to the effect of, I want to get people out of their seats. I want to put a product on the ice that's going to get people out of their seats. It's going to be exciting. It's going to be entertaining. And that's what we're getting now. So yes, it hasn't been perfect. It hasn't been pretty all of the time. And I think that, no one is trying to say that it is. No one is suggesting that, yes, let's go down 5-1 early because that's the recipe to success right. Going forward. But if the end result is what it is, you're already mathematically, technically still not out of the playoffs. But for the sake of argument, you're out of the playoffs at this point.
Yeah.
At least make it fun.
Yep. I think you're going to have to come to grips with that because Barry Trotz wants that. Barry Trotz also, here's the other angle of all of this. And Adam and I have talked about this, and I'd like to see where you think. Adam's theory is I want them to play as well as possible every night and lose. And I get that. That's a pretty narrow needle to thread in general, especially since you can't really do that on purpose. And if you're going to start playing really well, they're too talented to not win some of those games. They gave San Jose every possible advantage they could. they gave them a 4-goal lead in the second period. They tried to give the Sharks a chance there, and then to come back the way they did, and for 7 different people to score, which is super fun and interesting. And the whole deal is you just can't. I understand Adam's point. I just don't think you can do it. And if you're asking me, would I rather pick 7th or 8th or 9th or 10th with 3 draft picks and a bunch of watching Svechkov develop, watching LaRue develop, watching some of the defensemen develop, watching Ananen develop, the older folks sort of finding their footing in the system so that maybe they don't have the slow start next year. A lot of this will hinge on the start of next year. And if they come out of the gate hot, that will answer some of these questions. But I think there is value. I think there's value to the fans. I think there's value from an entertainment standpoint. I think there's value for the young players, for the old players. I just think there's value in it, and I don't know if it's outweighed by picking 4th versus picking 9th. I just don't know in a draft where that doesn't feel like there's more than like one great player at the top. Maybe I'm wrong on that, as I've already admitted that I don't study the draft. So
no, I think you're right. I think that this draft class is very deep compared to some of the others. Not saying there wasn't talent at the top, but I think like last year and the year before, there was a clear number one. It was Bedard and Celebrini. And this year's class is not quite like that. Not saying that James Hagens is necessarily going to fall to 10th, but I think that there's a little bit more variance at the top. And actually, the top prospect, widely considered to be the top prospect in this year's class, is a defenseman. And if the Predators go out and get a defenseman
with the number one pick,
that's a much bigger problem.
It's the most Nashville Predators thing ever to finally get the number one overall pick and take a defenseman. It's just
I get it. He's a great defenseman, but
I'm with you.
My God.
Read the room, Barry.
Yeah, no, but again, I don't think that the Predators are headed towards picking 1st overall. So I don't think we have to worry about that. But yeah, I think that there's a lot, especially like you said, you've got 3 picks in the 1st round this year. I mean, that's significant. And this is also a team that, this could open up an entirely new can of worms that I don't know if we want to get into, but I think that this is a team. It feels like low-hanging fruit that has been brought up a lot this year, but historically this team hasn't done super well with 1st-round picks. So maybe this is a team that is better in the 2nd, 3rd, 4th rounds. So I think it's just like, I don't know, when most of the scouting staff has stayed the same from David Poile to Barry Trotz, I think that, this is a team that might actually thrive maybe with the later picks. But again, I don't know. I just think that, going back to your original question, this is the fun way to do it.
I think so. I think so. Otherwise, again, if there was Connor Bedard, if there was Connor McDavid, if there was, Austin Matthews, I'm trying to think of who else, Sidney Crosby, and if there was a number one pick that is the savior that gets talked about in the same way that these other guys get talked about, then I might have a different conversation. But there's no guarantee. There's no guarantee that anybody's going to be that good at the top. There's no guarantee that they even pick at the top. There's a lottery involved in all of this. So would I rather have 3 of the top 25 forwards in the draft and have some fun at the same time? Like the trade-off isn't that great here. You know what I mean? Like that's how it feels. That the risk is not that high to go from 4 to 7 or 4 to 9. It just doesn't feel like it's that high. And with this much, Kevin says, what if, and he's talking about Reed Schaefer, is that correct? The player that's supposed to be number one. Barry Trotz.
Reed Schaefer is a current Predators prospect. He's talking about, I think it's Matthew Schaefer, the defenseman.
Then Barry Trotz must have misspoke the other day with Stillman when he said, Reed Schaefer is largely viewed as the number one player in the draft. He was very clear about who he thinks that everyone else thinks is number one in the draft, which is the defenseman named Schaefer, whatever his first name is.
Yeah. Not Reed Schaefer.
That makes I was like, man, Barry Trotz wants to draft a Milwaukee Admiral with the first pick. Okay. That makes more sense now, but he telegraphed it. He wasn't afraid to say this is the guy that's number one, and if he is Cale Makar, then okay, true, maybe you should take him. But I understand that it's more of an optics thing than it is.
Yeah,
it's more of an optics and read the room, and like this is not the year to go after an elite defenseman when you've got Molendyk and Gibson and all the talent that's there, and how desperate this organization is for offensive firepower. So again, they do have 2 first-round picks that are playing right now and young and in their first year and playing well. And so it's not that you can't draft them or find them. It's, you just need to take a lot of shots at it. And I think having 3 picks, I don't know, I'd rather have fun. Because, look, it's not good that they were trailing to Chicago 2-1 late in the 3rd period. It's not good that they gave the Sharks a 4-goal lead in the 2nd period and they were down 3-0 after 12 minutes facing like 4 shots. Like, it's not good that they're where they are. This should not scare people into thinking that all of a sudden they're going to go on some crazy 18-game winning streak and be close to the playoffs again. They're not. They're still going to be picking in the top 8 or 10. I would bet on it.
Well, and like you said, even if they do go on a crazy 18-game winning streak, that's still not like they are so far in the hole right now that it's like it's gonna just barely get them into the conversation. So I don't know. I think that I've seen a lot of the whining about, oh well, great, now they're winning, so now we're not going to get a good draft pick, and it's like, will you people never just be happy about something? Like,
Yeah,
I'm
I
with
hear you.
you. I'm with you. It's different with football. Obviously, they only play once a week, but I think like with the Titans as an example, like if you get to the very end of the season and you have a shot at getting the first overall pick,
Yes.
yeah, throw it. Like that's fine. But right now, you've still got a lot of hockey left to play. Like just
Well, and you don't even throw it by like intentionally. You play Juuse Saros, you rest Juuse Saros, you play all your young kids, you rest your old guys,
yeah,
and that's it. And you say, look, if we win, we win, but if we lose, we gained experience or whatever. So
yeah,
I don't have an issue with that. Again, if you are in the last week of the season and you're still the third worst team and you can guarantee that you're going to be picking in the top 2 or 3, then I yes, you want to make sure that you're still picking in the top 2 or 3. But I think you need to be in that situation. You need to have 3 or 4 games to go, and you need to be kind of dancing on. Like if you win all of them, you could move to 6th or 7th. But if you lose all of them, you could drop to 2 or 3. I think that's when you sort of look at it and go, let's try. But I think try to be bad, I should say. But I think for now, like again, I as much as I don't want to see this team play the way they did against Chicago, I was entertained by that game. Honestly, I was talking with this is a totally random idea, by the way. Sinkers Beverages and Shotgun Willie's Barbecue. But I was talking to the guy I was with who listens to the show and is a fan of the huge fan of the Preds. Shout out Doug. And we were talking about how we should just do how because people don't how your mileage may vary on the shootout, right? He was just like, I don't know why we don't just do 3-on-3 until somebody scores. And I was like, I understand why they don't, but man, it would be so much more fun. It's the most like I really enjoy it. I know the hockey purist probably looks at it and goes, "Oh, it's gimmicky," but I've always enjoyed 3-on-3. I think the strategy is so much different than regular hockey. It's so much more fun and interesting, and puck possession and back and forth. And
I kind of like that they still do that for the playoffs, though. It makes it different. Like, makes it, in the playoffs, they don't do a shootout. You'll just do the 3-on-3 until somebody scores. Like, that, I think, makes the playoffs a little more special, a little more.
Well, it's not
different.
it's not 3-on-3. It's 5-on-5 in the playoffs.
Or yeah, sorry, but they do overtime. They don't do a shootout. They just play overtime until someone scores.
Until Mike Fisher scores at 2 a.m. It's look, I think the overtime hockey rules are as good as it gets in any sport. I just think it's a sport designed for really intense drama in the playoffs when it's tied up. I don't like how soccer, they'll give you like the extra time, right? They'll give you extra time, 15 minutes, and then another extra time, and then they go to penalties. And it's like, okay, the game has totally changed when you go to penalties. At least in hockey, penalties are more 50-50. I don't know what overall league shooting percentage is on penalties, but it's definitely not like soccer is like, I would bet you it's like 8 out of 10 you score, right? And in hockey, it's probably much closer. I bet you it's much closer to 50-50, if not, 1 out of 3 versus 2 out of 3 is sort of where you're at on shootouts most of the time. But the point is, I was entertained on Thursday, but it wasn't because the team played great. I was entertained because it was dramatic. They made a comeback. They beat Bedard, who largely has never played good games against Nashville, but he was pretty good on that night. San Jose, it would be very different if they had made the comeback, 7 goals on Askarov. It would have. It also would have been hugely different if Askarov outplays Juuse and Juuse gets pulled and it's 5-1 Askarov versus Saros. Even if he does give up a bunch of goals, it would have been a very different conversation.
Can I just say, though, after all of the extracurricular drama with the Zach LaRue bullshit, I am so glad we did not have to deal with Yaroslav Askarov in net. I was like, I need a break from the drama. Now we're probably going to see him on Thursday against San Jose or in San Jose. Yeah. But not here. And so I don't have to deal with it. I just like all of the drama with the LaRue stuff. And listen, I don't condone what LaRue did in Minnesota. It was a bad play, should have been punished for it. However, I find it so funny that this 21-year-old kid had an entire team, organization, and fan base just completely rattled in Minnesota to the point where they came into town and were so angry at this kid that they forgot that there was a game to play, and it showed. And I think that that's when you're talking about entertainment value, again, I don't condone it. I don't condone what he did, but I think that sometimes you need a little bit of that. And I feel like Nashville has not really had that. They haven't had that controversial guy who really just kind of like rattles another fan base and kind of becomes the enemy. And I think to a degree, you want that a little bit.
I think every team needs someone that gets under the skin of the other team. Sometimes it's sort of done in a classy way. I would say Colton Sissons probably does that a lot for this team over the last few years, but he does it sort of in a classy, respectful adult kind of way, whereas some people do it in a Brad Marchand, Sean Avery kind of way, which is what it is. And so I do want to discuss that because you said you were tired of the drama. I want more of that. I need more on a team that's not been good. I need more stuff that is interesting and entertaining because it creates conversation around this organization and this team that isn't the same old thing. And I appreciate, this is sort of what I'm getting at. If they're going to be bad, we might as well be entertained by the drama. And that's what we got on Thursday, Saturday, Tuesday. We got drama, at least.
When I say I was tired of the drama, what I should have specified, I was tired of whiny Minnesota fans in my mentions and like,
get off social media, come out in the streets with me, Emma. Come on. People don't talk like that to each other in the streets.
Yeah.
Strangely enough.
Yeah. Crazy. Wonder why that is. But I think that, I'm like, it wasn't the drama. Like the drama itself is fine, but it's like, I'm just sick of being attacked basically. So I mean, this was completely self-serving, but you
do remind me a little bit of when I was your age. Sorry, I just said that phrase. And on social media, it was starting to get bad. Like it was about 10 years ago, and social media was starting to get real bad, and it wasn't quite there yet, but it was starting to get that way where I just was like, this is starting to take a turn. And you're starting to get, weird comments from people about your college football opinions on Twitter from that you've never met before. And you're like, why are you attacking my wife? What are we doing? What are we doing here?
Now imagine being a woman. And
I hear you.
All the extra comments you get.
Well, but you know what my solution was? I got off the applications. That's what I'm trying to tell you.
Got to build a brand here. Right now, my brand is "Don't talk to me." But hey, that's
your brand is one of the hardest working hockey brands in the market, is what I'm hearing. That's what I know about your behavior in the streets, Emma. What I think
you're in the streets, that sounds bad.
What I mean about the Saturday and what I liked about it is, like, first of all, it felt sort of old school, like cause and effect, right? Like, you did this thing. We don't think you meant to do it. It was a huge mistake. You got punished, but now you got to take your medicine. And what I liked about it, and what I appreciate about the NHL at times, somewhat to baseball's unwritten rules as well, which can feel a little old and stodgy. I get it. But in this case, everyone for Nashville knew. And everyone knew it was going to take place. Luke Shen knew he had to step up, and he did. He got into a massive fight with a big brawl. You knew that. I don't think Mark Jankowski anticipated getting into a fight as well. But Yakov Trenin went after LaRue. The only thing I was upset about was I wish Andrew Burnett would have started LaRue. Just put him out there on the first shift and say, we know. We understand.
I think what was so great though was the fact that, I mean, that fight you give it to Trenin. Like, he absolutely just beat the living shit out of him. Well,
that's the whole point of that fight.
It is.
You hurt our captain. It was a bad hit. We got to get you back. Now let's move on. And
exactly. No, and that was great. But what was just fantastic was that Trenin just pummeled the living shit out of Zach LaRue. And then a period later, they do the welcome back video, and he's getting a standing ovation and treated like royalty. I was like, I fucking love hockey. This is amazing.
Somebody was pointing out, I can't remember who was pointing this out, but did his video come sooner than like Ryan McDonough's? Didn't Ryan McDonough have to wait until like even later?
Ryan McDonough, I have not confirmed this, but I would feel comfortable saying that somebody in the game presentation department forgot about McDonough because they didn't give him a video until the third period. That never happens.
Were they all caught up with the Stamkos being in the building against his old team? I guess is what they were worried about. Like I had all the that took all the headlines.
Well, but at that point, Nashville had already played in Tampa.
Right.
So it's like, it doesn't make sense. But
I'm
no,
with you.
I swear they forgot. And so we were all kind of joking in the press box about like, oh, I guess if you request a trade out of here, you don't get a video. And then because again, it was like not even a full video. That's why I really feel like someone forgot.
It's too many videos. This is too many videos. I think you need to have reached a certain number of games played or something, like 300.
Well, Trennan makes sense because he was drafted by Nashville, like homegrown guy. Like he was there. Yes.
How many games have Yakov Trenin played in a Predators sweater? Come on.
Well, you look that up, but I will point out that he was a Predators draft pick and he came up through their system. So like he's a homegrown guy.
Damn, I said 300 games. He's played 341.
Ha.
Damn. Okay.
So
right. No. 283 for Nashville.
Okay. Well, what about between Nashville and Milwaukee?
Well, obviously he played more, and he played more than 300 between. No, we're not doing tribute videos for your performance in the AHL.
Okay,
Emma, what are we doing?
The point is, it was not a lengthy video. It was like not even 30 seconds long.
Way to go. You beat our dirty player's ass. All right.
Welcome back, Yak. And everyone, he got a standing ovation. He waved. Like it was a whole, he was treated like royalty after he just beat the living daylights out of their prized young prospect. I was like, wow, I love hockey so much.
Philip Forsberg, lots of goals. Juuse Saros, lots of goals.
I have thoughts on that.
Sinkers, Beverages, and Shotgun Willie's barbecue for all your meats and beverage needs on any given Sunday. There's lots of important Sundays coming up. I think over the course of the next few Sundays, there's football, and I think you should be watching with Shotgun Willie's barbecue and with Sinkers Beverages, two great local and amazing businesses that can cater your football watching experience.
Can I just ask, is there a reason that you were so against, just like morally opposed to the championship football game that happens to be happening that for whatever reason we're not saying out loud?
Why am I morally opposed to it? What do you
mean?
Well,
because you won't say Super Bowl. I don't know
if I'm allowed to in an advertisement.
Oh, okay.
You ever notice that on Sports Talk Radio? Get ready for your big game. Get ready for the big Sunday. Get ready for the big party, the big viewing party. Like they're always doing that. I'm kind of doing it for fun because I'm sure they're not checking. But in case they are checking, because this is an advertisement, I figured I'd say, I'm kind of being cheeky about it, as my 6-year-old would say. Dad, quit being cheeky about it.
You are being cheeky. Hey, I'm here for the cheek. I just was not. I wasn't sure the reasoning for it. But
Emma Lingan at Emma_Lingan NFL. If you'd like to attack her for copyright infringement or whatever, I don't know.
And then they'll learn that I'm a Steelers fan, and they'll say, you know what? Never mind.
It's just the NFL. It's just the NFL sending mean tweets to him. How could you? I can't believe a woman would say Super Bowl in an advertisement.
Yeah, only a woman would do that. Yeah.
Oh my God. That's pretty funny. Yes, Shotgun Willie's Barbecue and Sinkers Beverages, two great local businesses that you can support by keeping your dollars in the community because they keep this show for free for all of you and all the other shows on the 440 Sports Network for free for all of you. So make sure you check them out, support them. And I'm telling you, it's the best ribs and the best brisket and the best smoked wings you're going to get for a game day. So make sure you check out Shotgun Willie's Barbecue. Sinkers Beverages, sign up for the in-crowd. Make sure you do that. Make sure you sign up because if you are shopping at a liquor store, they're the ones that'll take care of you. When you shop, the more you shop there, they're going to take care of you. So allocations, fancy bourbons, stuff that you don't get. They got the stuff down in the cage. You know what I mean? Like they'll take care of you if you're a loyal customer. So that's what a good local business can do. Big national corporations can't do that for you. So make sure you check out Sinkers Beverages and Shotgun Willie's Barbecue. Juuse Saros 4-4-1 in his last 10. He was pulled twice. He gave up 4 goals on 8 shots on Tuesday night. He made it one period. He made it 35 minutes about 2 weeks ago. He did have 1 shutout in that stretch. He's giving up 3.35 goals per game. He's given up 4+ goals 4 times out of those 10 games and a save percentage of .867. Very normal for Juuse Saros for any goaltender to have a stretch of bad hockey, in particular in the middle of the season, in particular heading into February, which I've been told by NHL players for years now is the toughest month of the year, winning season or not. And he started off so well. that you were expecting something like this. I don't have a question for you as to why. It was only a matter of time with the amount of poor defense this team is playing that the numbers were going to start doing this. That being said, it's also the same exact story about the same exact player that we have talked about now for going on, I think, since this company existed in 2020, which is why are we running this man into the ground? And hopefully Ananen will allow him to take some breathers the rest of the way, because the numbers right now are not good.
Yeah, and they're not good, but I also don't think the numbers tell the whole story. I think there are a few things here. Like you mentioned it already. There's only a matter of time before this team's awful defense was going to catch up with them. I mean, it already had caught up with them, but more in the sense of like the goaltender performance. Such bad defense being played in front of him, he can only do so much. Now, on top of that, this is a player that we've talked about a lot before, tends to have slow starts to the season. He did not have a slow start to this season. It's like now we're seeing it catching up to him. So now he's having a slow, maybe kind of a mid-season slump, I guess, if you want to call it that. We're just seeing it later. But again, I point more to like in the game against San Jose, for example, 2 of those goals in the first period directly attributed to Justin Barron's poor defense. And I know we're going to get into that, but I think that
still had a chance to make a save on both of those shots, but I know what you're saying.
No,
I know what you're saying. I know what you're saying.
I understand that. Yes. Like technically every goal is the goaltender's fault. The goaltender needs to stop the goals. It's always, you can't, it is what it is. But I just say, like, if you look at the goals in the first period from San Jose, for example, like Macklin Celebrini just beat him clean. Like he didn't even see it. Like that was a good goal, good shot, like was what it was. But some of those other ones, it's like Barron stays low in the zone.
Yep.
He
flat-footed. Yep.
He doesn't know what to do. He's all over the place. He's putting the puck right on the other guy's tape and they're scoring. It's just, and again, I don't mean to rag on Barron too much because
noted rifleman Luke Cunnin.
Yeah, right. And then we were on Mikhail Granlund hat trick watch last night. It was just a wild time. So I think looking at the defense as a whole, it has not been good. And looking at Saros and what he is used to with the defense playing in front of him in this Predators organization, this is not what he's used to. And so like it's going to be an adjustment for him too. So I don't mean to take all of the blame off of Saros and say that he can do no wrong. I'm just saying that it's not as simple as just one thing.
67, 64, 64 games played over the last 3 seasons. That's first in the NHL. Led the league in sort of saves and shots the last 2 years. Led the league in minutes 2 of the last 3 years. He is not leading the league in any of those categories right now, but with 36 starts, he is on pace to be pretty used again. But a .901 save percentage, that's worse than last year. The .281 goals against is going to be one of his 2 worst in his career with last year as well. All of that's just currently. There's going to be some good stretches of play. I just don't think it's that on a player that is not built like a 6'4" middle linebacker. I just think it's okay to that you have the other backup linebacker, Big Juuse, sitting right there, and he's been playing fairly well. I don't think it's on a team that doesn't have a lot to play for. This could be one of those decisions where you're like, no, let's just give the younger guy some more reps and rest our guy because there's no real reason to run him into the ground. Like, they're not going to make the playoffs, guys. Like, I know that we'll go over the numbers here. Like, they have been very good offensively. One of the best 5 offenses probably in the NHL over the course of the last 16 or 17 games since, strangely, the first line was finalized. Defensively, that's not the case. Defensively, they're still a bottom 3rd team according to almost every single metric. And so we've talked about this all year. The offense was too talented not to round into form, and it has. The defense is just too young and inexperienced, and while it's got some upside and there's some intrigue about this unit moving forward, it's not right now. It's Roman Josi, half a Brady Shea, and then you're just sort of like, Who's going to develop and play well tonight? Nick Blankenberg is sort of the example. There are moments where he plays super well, and you're just like, oh, that was a great shift in a critical situation with a lead in the third period. Fought hard, got to pucks, cleared the zone. And then there's other shifts where he just gets pushed around, and you're like, okay, he's still young, he's still learning. And that's just sort of where we are. Wilsby's the same way. Stasny not playing over Justin Barron. We're going to get to that. But the defense has been a problem all along. And if you're going to have bad defense and you're not in the playoffs, start the young goaltender. Like Mitch Korn said it to us during the summertime. You need reps. You need time increase to learn the things mentally that you need to learn to become an NHL starter. Give him some time. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that Ananen too is exactly what you want in a backup, in an NHL backup. He's the guy who's reliable. You know that you can put him in, just like against San Jose. You put him in when your starter is struggling and you feel confident and he can hold down the fort. What I will say is an especially difficult situation because he only saw 14, 15 shots. It was, for San Jose over the last two periods, they were barely putting the puck on the net. So that's a harder situation for a goalie to be in. And Ananen had a similar situation in his last start against, I believe it was Vegas, where he wasn't seeing a lot of shots. And that's even more challenging. Yep. And he was still able to hold it down. And that's what you want in a backup. Should make people excited about him and him being part of this team.
Eight games played, .924 save percentage, .231 goals against, just light years ahead of where he was for Colorado. His goals saved above expected or above average was a -6.4. Again, Saros led the league in this category a couple of years ago, not last year, but the year before that and the year before that with 27 and 30 goals saved above average. He was at -6.4 Colorado. He's a +4.8. We're talking 10-goal difference in the play of him. And again, some of that's, I think, the lack of pressure. Colorado was putting a lot of pressure on him to carry the team where he wasn't really ready for that. Here, he's got very little pressure. It's kind of come in, be a backup, be a supporter. Yeah, 5-2, Brandon says, since he's been here. 6 starts. He's won 5 of them. He's been good. Now, I think the team has been better in front of him, and there's always been that element of hockey where you're playing in front of a backup. It's a back-to-back, and that the defense has to step up tonight or whatever. And I think that's always the case with a backup goaltender. But I don't know. It's more just playing. If you're playing the long game, which the more and more this season goes along, the more and more Barry Trotz has told everybody over and over again, this is about 2 years from now. This is not about right now. This is about 2 years from now. It's about having the space and the players to be very, very good in 2 to 3 years with a lot of top-level homegrown talent. If that's the case, then the one guy who's going to be around through all of the long-term plans is Juuse Saros. And so you got to protect that asset, and that doesn't mean run him into the ground for no reason. So I don't know how many times we've done this segment on the show. It's way too many. All right, you want to talk about Justin Barron?
Oh, yes.
Okay. All right. So he does score goals every now and then. He does something like that's S plural. That's plural.
Yeah.
His shooting success rate and his true shooting percentage are off the charts. Goal per 20 off the charts. Slot shot per percentage off the charts. Here you go though. Stuff that is well below average, league average from a metric standpoint. Defensive zone block passes, one of the worst. Defensive zone possession success rate, 66%, one of the worst. Outlet pass success rate, 67%, one of the worst. Inner slot shots against, he's giving up almost 3 per 20 time on ice. Stretch pass success rate, 60%, one of the worst. He's not creating offense as a distributor either. I don't think he has an assist yet, and I don't think, passes for one-timers, also one of the worst in the NHL. He pinched and thought he was on the power play against San Jose yesterday because he just skates into the zone ready for a one-timer. And I was just like, what is he doing? What is he doing up there? And then they come right back and Celebrini scores because he gets caught deep in the zone. And then, of course, flat-footed on the second goal where he doesn't kind of get out and close the gap against Cunnin. Where are you at on, again, the fancy stats say that when he's got some offensive chances, he's been productive. And, that's fine. You're playing with Roman Josi. It's going to happen. But largely, again, if you're talking about blocking passes in the D zone, success rate from a possession standpoint, outlets getting out of the zone, he's just not doing it, and he's out of position too much. So again, I don't think this is a guy that people think is a long-term solution. But why is he playing over a player like Spencer Stastny? I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, I've a lot of thoughts on this. Number one, you're right. This is not expected to be a long-term piece of the franchise, which is why I need people to understand that there are two separate arguments here. People like to look at trades in a vacuum, and I've said this before, but I am not at all sitting here arguing that Justin Barron makes this team better than Alex Carrier did. But what I am saying is that, again, like you said earlier, Braden, we're looking at 2-3 years from now. This trade it got cap space. It gave them flexibility. There's all we're going to not really know the full impact of this trade right away. In the immediate term, absolutely, Montreal wins the trade, but that's not, we're not going to know the full impact of this for a while. So everyone's saying that they shouldn't have traded Carrier, blah, blah, blah. I hear you and I understand, but these trades don't happen in vacuums, and Carrier was expendable. Now, that being said, Justin Barron has been very bad for this team. And like you said, he gets caught out of position way too much. He roves too much. And when you're playing with Roman Josi, that is not good because Roman roves, but the difference is Roman does it very well. And Justin Barron does not.
You can't have two rovers on the same team. Or on the same line.
No, especially when one of them is really bad at it. But I think that with, you have Josi up there. I understand what makes it difficult is Barron being a right shot defenseman. They do sort of lack right shot defensemen right now. But, you've got Roman who can play on both sides. You've got Adam Wilsby, who in a very small sample size, but has shown an aptitude to be able to play on either side. And I understand that Andrew Brunette's kind of protective of his younger players, doesn't want to give them more than, have them bite off more than they can chew too early. But to that end, you brought up Spencer Stastny, and I actually asked Brunette about this after the San Jose game. I didn't ask it this way, but the way I asked it in my head was, Bruno, what in the ever-loving hell is Justin Barron doing on the ice while Spencer Stastny? No, I said in my head, that's what I said. While Spencer Stastny has his ass on the bench, not even in the bench, in a suit in the locker room. So, Andrew Brunette talked about how Stastny, he said that when he came back, obviously that first game he played was against Vancouver. He had a really good game. And then after that, they went to Calgary. He didn't have a good game, but granted, no one on the team had a good game. And then after that, he just felt that Stastny had not quite gotten back to his game the way that it was in Vancouver. So he opted to bench him. When Wilsby came back, see, what I thought was it was going to be Wilsby. When Wilsby came off of IR, I thought it was going to be Wilsby comes in, Barron goes to the bench. And that was not what happened. Wilsby came in and Stastny went to the bench. And I just think, again, when you have Roman Josi who can play either side, I think Roman Josi on his quote unquote offside is better than Justin Barron on his good side. So I think that I would have tried Wilsby on the top pair with Josi. We've seen that before already. Keep Stastny with Schenn. I don't know. I think
and go Barron and Blankenberg.
No, Shea and Blankenberg.
Shea. Sorry.
Blankenberg
gets scratched.
No, Blankenberg stays in. Barron gets scratched. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Sorry, I'm looking at the right lefts here, trying to figure out what's the best combination. It's there aren't any.
There aren't, but know that Roman can play on the right. You also have Lazan, who is another left shot, who whenever he comes off of IR, again, once Lazan comes back, I'm like, you have no reason to keep putting Justin Barron out there. He's so bad.
Honestly, I want one of Schenn or Lausanne with Josi, to be honest with you. But I don't think Schen's the right person. I think it's probably more like Lauzon, which does force Roman to play on these offhand. But
Well,
then you could do
Lauzon was playing with Yossi before he got
right.
hurt.
And I think that's the right. I think that's the right combination of skills.
Yeah.
And then Stastny, Schenn, Willsby, Blankenberg in some combination. That's your 4. I guess. See, I keep thinking that, and then I leave out Shea every time.
Mm-hmm.
I leave out Shea every time.
There is no easy answer here. That's the point, is that there's no easy answer. But to me, in the immediate term, especially while you don't have Lauzon, I'm just like, I'm watching Barron out there, and it's happening so often that he's getting caught out of position. He looks lost out there. And it's, again, it's mind-boggling to me, because Andrew Brunette always talks about how, like, older players can handle adversity better than younger players. And that's always his argument about, like, while he was, he was benching younger players and playing the veterans, even when they were underperforming. And he talked about how, younger players are less equipped to deal with stuff like that. And it's like, okay, but Justin Barron is what, 23? And then
he's
Stastny's 24, and I just think that talking about Stastny maybe needing to get back to his game, fine. But that's fine. Bench him 1 or 2 games. But if you keep putting him out there, or keep putting Barron out there, then your argument kind of falls apart.
I mean, it feels like if you're just ranking them when they're fully healthy, Lauzon and Yossi together, Stastny and Schenn together, Shea and Blankenberg together, and then you've got Wilsby and Barron both on the bench at that point. And I would certainly like to see more of Wilsby than Barron. And honestly, in that group, Blankenberg is probably the weak link of those 6. Wilsby might actually be a better player, but it's hard to know. Like, you got to play you're not going to move either of those guys to the offhand. Although Blankenberg probably could do it because of his.
I just think,
but he does. We don't need an extra. They don't need an extra left. So.
No, and I think Blankenberg, that's his value. Number 1 is the fact that he's a right shot, but also the fact that he has that experience as a forward. He's really good with the puck. He's really good off the rush. Like, he's small. He's not a big body, and that, that can be a problem. But I think that he does so many things so well. And I've been really impressed with him. And he's kind of like that sneaky, slippery type of player that can really just kind of create space and create those opportunities. So, I mean, I'm not advocating at all for Blankenberg to be out. But again, there's no easy solution. I would love to find a way to get Wilsby and Stastny in there. But I think it depends on your opponent too, because Wilsby, better overall defenseman than Stastny, better defensive defenseman than Stastny. Stastny, much better skater. He's much faster. And I think that a lot of it will depend on who your opponent is and who slots in on that third pairing with Luke Schenn, because Schenn has played very well with both of those guys. So I think that those kind of become your interchangeable guys. It's nice
to have an option, and then Barron is an afterthought, honestly. Looking at the metrics, this was going into Tuesday night's game, and I know that because they scored 7 goals offensively, they're probably even better than this. But the fancy stats kind of across the board and this will have a point. On offense, as a team, they've gained almost their 11th in points percentage since the losing streak. They're 10-6-1 over that stretch. They're top 5. They're number 5 in expected goals for. They are number 3 in expected goals for on 5-on-5. They're number 7 in slot shots on the net. They're number 5 in offensive zone time possession. They are number 8 in scoring chances created per game. First off the forecheck in scoring chances created. 7th off the cycle. 13th off the rush. All of that, of course, has gotten better, relatively speaking, probably in small margins with the 7-goal performance. Probably not so much on the defensive side with the 5 goals. But 13th on power play. Then you look on the other side, and they're still 24th in expected goals against. They're still 22nd in the penalty kill. They're 25th in expected goals against 5-on-5, 22nd in slot shots allowed. The one area that they are doing a great job on defense is offensive zone time allowed. They're actually top 5 in the league on that. So maybe that's a sign that they're keeping folks out of the zone, which is a good thing, obviously, especially when people get into the zone and have so much space to work with. As they've had most of the season. But I think this goes back. I know that scoring goals was a problem for the first half of the season. They were the worst offense in the league. But we always looked at the talent in the system and we said, no, it's going to find its way. It might be too slow and it might hurt the team long term, but like they were going to eventually, it's too talented. You can't do anything about it. This has always been the concern. I had it in the summertime going into the year. You lose McDonough, you add in a bunch of like, and this is why I'm not super I'm not super upset about Fabro and about Carrier, is that like a shakeup was needed in the blue line for this team. It had gotten very stale and it wasn't great. It doesn't mean it was bad, but it wasn't great. And so you kind of knew that Fabro and Carrier weren't going to be great. So let's try to shake some stuff up and bring in a bunch of new pieces. And you have some young guys that, are going to be nice and fun and talented. And with that's going to come some defensive meltdowns and some defensive problems. And if you are one of the folks who wants them to pick in the top 3, you should be okay with a bunch of young players playing on defense. And on and in playing in net, for that matter.
Yeah.
And frankly, I want more Fedor Svechkov. That dude needs to be on the ice as much as they think he can handle.
Yeah.
Because the play, the puck moves with him. He knows where to be at the right time almost all the time in the offensive zone. I watched him a lot on the defensive zone in the third period just to see, like, is he missing assignments? Does he know where he's supposed to be? And he's largely in the right places. Like he makes some mistakes, but like he's largely in the right places.
I also think that him being in the center, and this is another thing that Andrew Brunette talked about after the San Jose game, which was moving Tommy Novak to the wing, I think has been very beneficial for Novak, but also for Svechkov. Like he's a younger kid. He doesn't have as much experience as Novak does. Novak can probably handle the position change a little bit better, a little bit smoother than Svechkov has. Plus, if you were trying to develop Svechkov as a center, you play him in the center. And so I think that him being out there has been, being out there consistently has been really good for him. I think Novak being on the wing has been really good for him. I think that, I agree with you. I think we should be seeing as much of Svechkov as we can.
He just has like that longer center kind of game and body. Now he needs to put on some weight, eat some pork chops, go to Shotgun Willie's barbecue, get you some brisket, man. But once he does, like his frame can handle like another 20, 25 pounds of muscle. And when he gets that extra adult big boy strength but he's got the center's length and sort of vibe, and he kind of plays in that position really well. And so Novak's been far more noticeable in the last 4 or 5 games as well, to your point. So look, Cole Smith back, very noticeable. That forecheck presence is just shot out of a cannon on every shift.
They missed that.
They back in the lineup. Yep. So I just think they need to keep finely tuning the whole thing, keep giving people opportunities. And if it leads to a couple exciting, fun and, comeback wins and wins over rivals, or a win in a fight match, like, fight night on Saturday night, have your fun and acknowledge that this team is still like top 5 bad, and that they still are picking a pick in the top 5, and that they're not all of a sudden picking 14th. There's a lot of folks that I see, they jump all the way to like, oh, great, now we're going to pick 12th. Now we're going to pick 13th. You know how many games they have to win to get to 13th? Like,
people were saying that after they won 1 game. It's like, well, great, they're good now. When it's like, y'all, relax.
We assure you they are not.
Just relax.
But again, like, even if they go, here's what's crazy is even if they go like 10-6-1 over the course of their next, how many games do they have left? What do they got? Like 30 something games left, 35 games left. I haven't checked the standings. Even if they win, like they've played 46. So they've got, like 34, 35, 36 games left. If they 20-10-6, is that 36 games? 20-10-6. That's 40 points. That's 81 points plus a few ties in there. You get up to 85, 86 points. You're still not, like, you're still probably bottom 7 or bottom 8. And that's if you win like 2 out of 3 games the rest of the way. So I agree that witty banter, they're not top 5 bad. I agree with that. I agree, but they are Chicago and
standing. If they are what the standings say they are right now,
they're tied for the third fewest points in the NHL. There's 2 teams that have fewer points than them, and they had to come back in historic fashion to beat one last night.
Yes.
I mean, so again, I agree that they're not top 5 bad, but they are right now, again, tied for third to worst So right now they'd be picking third or fourth in the draft by points total. So again, you can have some fun. You can win some games. You can play good offense. You can have some moments. Philip Forsberg gets to 300 goals. Celebrate that. Have fun with this stuff. Try to enjoy the rest of the way. Josh chimes in. Good to see you, Josh, by the way. Josh chimes in. 85 points would have been 13th last year. So there you go. They have to win 2 out of 3 games the rest of the way over a 35-game stretch to get to 13th. They have to be their best hockey they've ever played in the last 2 years, besides that one little stretch, I guess, of 18. So there you go. Luke says, anyone who's watched this team's games and game out genuinely believe they belong in the basement of this league is clueless. I don't think anyone that is saying that, right? That's not what we're saying.
No, that I think that's what he's saying is like they're not top 5 bad. Like their roster, like they shouldn't be top 5 bad, but the standings are what they are. I think is kind of the point.
Which honestly, doesn't that put them kind of in the place that Adam's talking about, where it's like they're better than their record indicates, but they're going to get the benefit of a draft pick out of the deal. Like, I do feel like that's kind of where people want them to go at this point now that the postseason is out of it. Because Witty Bater says, "What's they're only 10 points out of a playoff spot?" I guess if you're talking Calgary at 51, I guess that's true.
They aren't in control of their own destiny, though, because you got to take into account what all the other teams are doing. So all the teams ahead of them would have to like lose all their games, and then they would have to win all their games. And it's not as clear cut as all of that.
Well, and a few of them will, but not all of them. And honestly, it's 10 points to Calgary, but it's a pretty big jump even to the 9th playoff team at that point, right? Like the Kings are at 55 points, Colorado's at 57. One of those is a wild card team. You're 14 points out of the first wild card spot. That's hopeless. Could you go on some magical run and have 3 or 4 teams poop themselves down the stretch? It's possible, but it seems highly unlikely. Right now, they have the 3rd fewest points in the NHL, and so they're not that bad, and we know that. And I agree with all you commenters saying that. Just give me entertainment, and maybe lose half the time. and then you can I want a top. Here's what I would love: entertaining hockey with illustrations of progress. I want signs of progress, a top 5 pick. That's what I want. If I can have my cake and eat it too, then that's great for me. So
yeah, I mean, I think with the, like you said, just lose half the games. If they play at all like they did in the first period against San Jose and Chicago, then I feel pretty confident saying they'll lose half the games.
I mean, 15, 15, and 5, which is about how many games I have left. I mean, that's 30. That puts you at not even 80 points. If you go 500 the rest of the way, you probably don't even get to 80 points. And I feel like I'll have to double check to Josh's point. I'll have to double check where that was in the standings last year, but I can't imagine that's too far outside of the top 5, right? Ottawa, Montreal, 78, 76, Columbus, 66. Yikes. Chicago, 52. Holy cow. Anaheim and San Jose, 59 and 47. So there you go. That does put you, 80 points puts you at about like 8th or 9th. So there you go. 77 was 6. There you go. So I love the audience that can correct me in real time. I do appreciate that.
You're still in the top 10.
Still in the top 10. Okay, so maybe that's the better. Maybe picking top 8 and win half the games and give me signs of progress. That's what I'm looking for. All right. Otherwise, make sure you check out Shotgun Willie's Barbecue. Make sure you check out Sinker's Beverages, 2 great sponsors of this product and of this show. And Emma, I know they can find you on the Twitter sphere, on the social media accounts, Lower Broad Hockey on Fridays for the newsletter, and literally every other podcast on the internet. Where can the people find you?
Literally every podcast on the internet. No.
It's a lot. That's like 4 million podcasts.
Yeah, I'm a very busy woman. No, you can find me. Yeah, you can find me at Emma_Lingan. If you find me in the streets, don't talk to me. I don't like people.
I did see you IRL the other day, and I stopped to talk to you, and you were like, you looked at me weird. Like, why are you talking to me right now?
I think that's just my face, but that's fair.
I say this about so my wife does not have resting bitch face. She has resting unapproachable face.
Yeah, same.
Which she has worked very hard on to make sure there's a difference. Like,
yeah,
no, I'm not being mean. I'm just unapproachable. Don't talk to me.
Same. Well, no, you have to work it when you're a young, smaller woman. You have to work on being unapproachable, and I have perfected that. I like to think so. I'm always thrown off when I do get approached. I'm like, wait, my force field didn't work on you. What's wrong?
Hey,
Yeah.
how dare you know who I am and I know who you are, so we have to have a human interaction.
Well, in my defense, when I saw
My kids
you,
are here. Emma, do you want to meet the kids? Rah, 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 rah.
okay, all right. When I saw you, I was not expecting to see you, so it wasn't like, oh, hey, like at this previously agreed upon, location. It was like, oh, hi. Like,
Impromptu in-person meetups are like that's like the thing. It's very hot right now. It's very
that's
trendy.
my hell. That's my hell. Absolutely.
Well, you know what? This is what's wrong with the younger generation. This is the antisocial century that we're in, as warned by the Surgeon General, and it's all y'all's fault. Well, it's our fault. Y'all got to fix it.
Hey,
we
I'm
made
not
all
even,
the rules.
Oh goodness.
We made all the
Whatever.
trashy.
I'll
we made all the Silicon Valley social media tech rules, and now you guys have to somehow fix it. So
I can be approachable and I can be social, just only with people that I like.
Well, so how about this? Can we have a listener gathering at Shotgun Willie's Barbecue where you have to talk to everybody?
Everybody?
Everybody that takes the time to go buy some Shotgun Willie's Barbecue, yes.
That's fine.
It's going to be part of the deal.
But it won't be impromptu. That's the thing. I can mentally prepare.
That's true. Fine. And you can do it with beverage. I'll make sure Sinkers Beverages provides some so this is the problem with the youth not drinking. Also, is they're not becoming friends in public anymore. So you need a little Sinkers Beverages in public to loosen up the brain to actually allow for some fun conversations and building new relationships where you look people in the eyes in real life, Emma.
Well, I am not the youth and I do drink. So and I do become a lot less friendlier.
More unapproachable, less unapproachable.
Yeah, more approachable when I drink.
There we go.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's literally the point of alcohol. There is no redeeming quality to alcohol, but what the human body,
social lubricant.
But what you benefit, this is all science, man. What you benefit, the benefits of alcohol are outside of the effects of alcohol. It's all the things that you gain from having more social interactions with folks that are in your community. So I'm fascinated by this subject, by the way. Social media, tech, alcohol, age, how it all works together. I'm fascinated by it. That's for sure. So there you go. All right, Josh, see you all at the draft party. Sinkers catered by Shotgun Willie's Barbecue. It's a great idea. It's a great idea. 3 first-round picks. All right, Brad says still want Higgins or Mesa, and you'll need a top 4 pick to get him. There's a very good chance that they could get in the top 4 by A, being bad at hockey, or B, trading up from 6 to 4 with a bunch of extra draft picks. So we'll see. You just got to be in that top 8 probably to have a chance to make the moves up if you want. So we'll see. All right. Thanks, Emma, for all your work. We do appreciate you. Everybody out there, thanks for listening. We do appreciate all of you. Rate, review, and subscribe on the podcast app of choice. Please give us 5 stars. It helps people find us as well. Thumbs up on the YouTube page. Share the product if you're watching on Twitter, etc. So thanks, everybody. Emma's newsletter on Lower Broad Hockey. Sign up now on Fridays, of course. You can get me and Adam on the Lower Broad Hockey Gold Standard Extra on Mondays, and you can get Nick Keyser's writing in between. So make sure you check all of that out. We do appreciate all you guys for all your hard work. Thank you, guys. Thank you for hanging out. We'll talk to you next time. Peace and love.